Hello, YouTube. It's your boy, the Passport Bro Wingman, coming at you again with another YouTube video. And the title of this video is called Dress Fly Passport Bros. You need to dress and impress to get women in Colombia and Brazil. And the way this video came about was I was watching another Passport Bros video, and he brought up the subject of the type of attire that you should wear when you go to some of the clubs. So I thought this would be a very interesting topic to talk about, and I wanted to give my spin on it and just my experience and some advice as well. So, a few things to consider. While it is while it is nice to always dress your best and look good, when you go to the clubs and we get on dates, you also need to take into account safety and security while you're in these countries. While dressing in polo, you know um Tommy Hilfiger, having your expensive Nikes on, those kind of things, that's okay in the States, where most people for the most part have a decent amount of income. But even here in the States, sometimes depending on what area you're in, you may want to some degree dress down a little bit. You don't want to make yourself necessarily like a target. You don't want to stand out. And so that's the same case. So it is in Colombia and Brazil as well. Um, Generally, when I go to these countries, I generally dress down. I generally just have a plain t-shirt, some jeans. Um, as far as gym shoes, I actually own like I have like some Air Maxes, and I have like some different types of like Nikes that are a little bit more expensive. I generally don't wear those when I go to Colombia. I generally wear like I have like my Adidas, and I have like some I'm gonna say like more like almost like running shoes. Like the shoes I go to like in a gym, I generally wear those shoes. I also have like some Guess shoes I have. And generally what I'm trying to say is my personal opinion when I'm just walking around in the countries, whether if I'm going out to just let's say like I'm going to like a restaurant, or maybe there's like a little tour or something. Maybe I'm going I'm going to the beach or something like that. Generally in this case, I try to dress down as much as possible, only because I don't like to stand out. I try my best to try to blend in with the crowds there. Also, when you start to dress up really fancy, you attract a lot of the people trying to sell you things, because they look at you and they see you have money. So when you're like on a beach, when you're walking around and they see you got an expensive shirt on, expensive clothing, you're gonna have more and more people coming up to you, pandering, trying to get you to sell things. Now that they're not gonna do that when they regardless, but I just think it kind of increases it. Same thing with some of the, dealing with some of the when you deal with some of the females, I don't necessarily like to portray myself as like looking like an ATM. I think it kind of to some degree draws the wrong type of attention. Now, I do understand that you are going to get a level of what's the word, attention, um when you do find a girl that's genuine, and you want to kind of, I guess, to some degree, make a great impression, and you take her out on a date. In those cases, for example, if I meet a girl, we're vibing, I get her number and I meet her again. In that case, I may wear like a button up or something a little bit nice. The biggest thing is that because I know we're going to go to a restaurant where we're indoors, it's a little bit more safe. So in that case, I can kind of dress up a little bit and look nice and look presentable, look like I actually care. Because I do understand on the other end, it's kind of a double edged sword. When you dress down too much, then to some degree, people might feel like you don't care, and in many cases, I don't know, it might just give like the wrong type of vibe. So um and what I'm trying to express is that there's no wrong or right type of attire. It really just depends on, I would say, where you're staying at in the city, what countries you're going to, what do you plan to do throughout your day. If you're just there to go like on a tour, you're going to the beach, um that kind of thing, then in that case, I really don't see a need to really dress with fine clothing, that kind of thing. Now if you're there with Maybe you're there with a group of friends. Y'all want to hit some clubs. Um, you got a couple dates that you planning, that kind of thing. You can dress up a little bit, but even in a club, this is where I say it's kind of like preference. Because sometimes like when I would go to the clubs, I would see guys in there with nice button ups and that kind of stuff. Now this is what I'm saying. I'm not saying look like a bum when you go to the club. Of course, you don't want to look like a bum, but I just at most I would just wear like a little polo type shirt, something like that, some jeans. If you want some little I don't know if you guys are familiar with like Hush Puppy shoes, like some decent looking shoes. Nothing extremely fancy, but people gonna look and say that it's nicely put together. Like I said, like there's a clothing brand called Izod. They make really nice shirts. They're not super fancy, but they are really really nice. Not extremely expensive. And I have a bunch of those shirts. So sometimes when I go down to Colombia, I'll wear something like the Izod button-up shirts. And a lot of times anyway, because Bogota in particular is pretty cold, I usually have my jacket over it. So at the same time, so that way when I am dealing with some of the girls, I take my jacket off, they can see I have a nice shirt on. But while I'm outside, I have my jacket on. It's kind of covering it up, so I'm not standing out so much in the crowd as you're walking. Because you also got to consider that when you're walking down some of these streets, you got to pay attention to the type of attire that everybody that the locals are wearing. In many cases, they're not going to be wearing super expensive clothing. You might see things like they're wearing like a Nike shirt, Adidas, type shirt, something like that. But usually they'll have on nice shirts, but these won't be necessarily like the most expensive, like name brands. They have their own like brands there that they have. So they are like nice, polo type shirts, not Ralph Lauren, but polo type shirts. And you'll see people walking around with this. The ladies as well, they dressed to a T. Looking really nice. Same thing. The other thing is that in many cases, even some of the women, they're not really wearing lots of jewelry. And the jewelry that you generally see them wear, it's not like gold jewelry. It's usually like kind of like beads, like little beads, little strings, that kind of thing. Almost like I'm gonna say like ornaments, but sort of like ornaments. So they do accessorize, but not in a very expensive manner. They're pretty economical when it comes to accessorizing and wearing jewelry and that kind of thing. Now I'm not saying that it's some of the um more richer parts of the cities, you'll probably see people wearing a little bit more fancier clothing. If anything else, you'll see them wearing like slacks and dress shirts and looking very nice in the more upscale areas. But when you go more to like the middle class, I hate to say it, lower class areas, you don't really see people wearing clothing that much expensive. So what I'm saying is you don't really, because you also got to consider that these are the type of guys that a lot of women there are dating. So they're not necessarily dating guys who wear high priced clothing and that kind of thing. So you don't really need it. So you don't. So in that case, in many cases, you don't really need to dress and impress. I just think it gives like a put it this way, you get an extra it's kind of like you put in that resume and you have like the little cover letter. It's kind of like that. It'll give you like you get extra credit for it. So of course, when a girl see you like that, because a lot of times sometimes the girls when they meet you, they want to show you off to their parents. They want to show you off to some of their friends. So if you dress really nice, it makes like a really really good impression. So I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying if you're going to do it in mind with a security, with a level of thinking about security. That you don't want to necessarily draw lots of attention to yourself and draw like the wrong crowd and kind of bring out the wrong attention as well, because sometimes you're dealing with some women and they tend to be a little bit more what's the word I guess money driven. You might attract more of those type of women, and since they see that you wear so many fancy clothing, you got fancy shoes, they think you got money like that just to spend on them. So they wanted you to take them out to some of the most fanciest spots, and then in that case, if you don't, you might be looked at as kind of being like cheap or trying to get over them. Versus if you kind of dress down a little bit, you'll kind of evade some of those more of the gold digger type women. Not that you want to evade all of them, because obviously you can see that you're like as soon as you open your mouth, they know you're a tourist. So in order to fly to those countries, plane tickets are not cheap, in many cases. So they know you have some type of money. But I just don't like flashing it and looking necessarily like a ATM walking around for the most part. If anything, I try to blend in with the locals, see what the locals are trying to wear, somewhat try to match that, you know. But that's my whole spin on dressing to impress while you're in countries such as Brazil and Colombia. Basically, what I'm trying to say overall is that you don't necessarily need it. It does give you extra credit points if you do it. But if you do it, my advice to you is do it with a level of security, being aware of your surroundings, and thinking about the impact that it's going to have, not just on the women you're dealing with, but like the people, when it comes to your surroundings as well. Just know that it may draw additional people trying to sell you things, and you got to now be worried a little bit more about your security. So if you are going to be dressing to impress, I would encourage you to stay more in more of the upscale areas. And more so, if you are going to do it more so when you're going out on dates, with a girl, particularly in a restaurant or a place where you're going to be indoors. You don't have to worry so much about some shady guy kind of scooping you out and being aware of you and kind of sizing you up, that kind of thing. So I'm going to end it on that. And I don't want to keep this video too long. I'm gonna start putting out more and more videos. I know I've been quiet for a little bit, had to take care of some business, but I'm back to it. So if you can, please subscribe to my channel if you have not. Hit the notification bell, hit the thumbs up, and leave some comments and tell me what you think about this whole dress to impress thing to get women in foreign countries. If you think it's necessary, you don't think it's necessary, tell me what you think. And until next time, this is your boy, the Passport Bro Wingman, signing off.